The wind screamed like something alive, cutting through skin and bone as snow fell sideways in the mountains, erasing footprints almost as soon as they formed. In the middle of that white chaos, a woman stood clutching her children, her knees shaking, her breath shallow, knowing with terrifying certainty that if help did not come soon, the blizzard would claim everything she had left. She had already buried one life. She could not bury 4 more. Not here. Not tonight. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of one human decision to change many lives, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because people like this woman exist all around us, unseen. Her name was Evelyn Hart, though no one in the storm knew it. To the world, she was just another homeless widow wrapped in layers of worn clothing that could not keep the cold out. Her hair was tangled and damp with melting snow, her face pale and hollow, eyes rimmed red from exhaustion and grief. She held her newborn close to her chest, trying to shield the tiny body from the biting wind, while her 3 older children pressed against her legs and sides like frightened birds. They had been walking for hours after their car finally died on a mountain road that no one traveled in winter. The fuel gauge had been empty for days. She had hoped, foolishly, that they could make it down the mountain before nightfall. Hope had been all she had left. Evelyn had not always lived like this. Less than a year earlier, she had a small home, a husband who worked 2 jobs, and children who complained about chores and homework instead of hunger and cold. Then came the accident on an icy highway, the call from a hospital, the words that shattered her world. Medical bills swallowed what little savings they had. Rent fell behind. Friends helped at first, then drifted away, unsure how to handle her grief or their own discomfort. Pride kept her from asking too much. Pride in the belief that she could fix things if she just tried harder. But life kept pushing, and she kept falling, until one day she found herself packing their lives into garbage bags and leaving the apartment for the last time. The blizzard was not supposed to be this bad. The weather report had promised light snow, manageable roads. Instead, the sky had turned iron gray, and the wind rose like a wall. Her youngest son stumbled repeatedly, his boots soaked through. Her daughter's lips were turning blue. The baby whimpered weakly, a sound that cut through Evelyn's chest like glass. She knew the signs of hypothermia. She knew what came next. Fear tightened around her heart, but still she walked, one step at a time, whispering prayers she was no longer sure anyone heard. Then she saw the cabin. It appeared through the blowing snow like something imagined, a dark shape against the white, smoke faintly curling from a chimney. A log cabin, solid and warm-looking, standing alone among snow-laden trees. Evelyn's legs nearly gave out with relief and terror combined. She did not know who lived there. She did not know if they would help. She only knew that stopping meant death. Gathering the last of her strength, she guided her children toward the door, her hands numb, her arms aching, her mind screaming for mercy. She knocked with knuckles she could barely feel. Once. Twice. A third time, harder, because she had nothing left to lose. The wind howled around them, pushing snow into their faces, stealing what little warmth remained. The children cried openly now, their voices thin and desperate. Evelyn leaned her forehead against the wood, fighting the urge to collapse. Inside the cabin, a man paused mid-step. Chief Petty Officer Daniel Cross had survived combat zones where danger came without warning and mercy was rare. He had trained his body to endure pain and his mind to stay calm when everything fell apart. But something about the sound at his door made his chest tighten in a way no battlefield ever had. He had been on leave, deep in the mountains with his canine partner, Ranger, trying to quiet a mind that never fully came home from war. The storm had been an excuse to stay inside, to avoid the world. Now the world was knocking. Ranger's ears were already up, his body alert, sensing distress long before the human did. Daniel opened the door, and the cold rushed in like a living thing. The sight before him froze him where he stood. A woman barely upright, holding an infant, surrounded by 3 small children clinging to her, all of them dusted with snow like fragile statues. Their eyes met his, and in hers he saw something worse than fear. He saw resignation, the look of someone who had reached the end. Training took over. He moved fast, ushering them inside without hesitation, closing the door against the storm. Warmth wrapped around them, almost painful in its suddenness. The children collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, their bodies shaking uncontrollably. Evelyn tried to speak, to explain, to apologize for intruding, but her voice failed her. Her knees buckled, and Daniel caught her before she hit the ground. The cabin became a place of quiet urgency. Daniel moved with practiced efficiency, building up the fire, pulling out blankets, checking fingers and toes for frostbite. Ranger stayed close to the children, his calm presence grounding them as much as the heat. Evelyn watched through a haze, her arms finally relaxing around the baby as warmth seeped back into her muscles. Tears streamed down her face, silent and unstoppable, as the weight of survival hit her all at once. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to stop fighting. As the storm raged outside, time inside the cabin seemed to slow. The children huddled together under blankets, their breathing gradually evening out. The baby slept, a soft rise and fall against Evelyn's chest. Daniel listened as Evelyn, once she could speak again, poured out her story in broken fragments. A husband lost. A home gone. Nights spent in shelters, then cars, then nowhere at all. Each word landed heavy, but Daniel did not interrupt. He had learned long ago that sometimes the greatest act of service was simply to bear witness. Something shifted in him as he listened. He had saved lives before, pulled wounded teammates from fire, carried bodies through dust and blood. But this was different. This was quiet, ordinary suffering, the kind that didn't make headlines and didn't end when the shooting stopped. It reminded him uncomfortably of how close he himself had come to losing everything after his last deployment, how easily one wrong step could unravel a life. The blizzard trapped them together through the night. Snow piled high against the cabin walls, the wind relentless. But inside, warmth and safety held. Daniel shared what food he had, simple meals that tasted like miracles to children who had eaten too little for too long. He found spare clothes, too big but dry and clean. Ranger accepted gentle touches from small hands, his steady presence a silent promise that danger was not everywhere. Morning came slowly, light filtering through snow-covered windows. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world buried and silent. Evelyn stood by the window, holding her baby, watching sunlight glint off endless white. She felt something unfamiliar stirring beneath the exhaustion and grief. Hope. Fragile, uncertain, but real. Daniel did not offer empty promises. Instead, he made calls when the roads reopened, reached out to contacts he trusted. He knew people who knew people, men and women who believed that no one should be left behind. Arrangements were made for temporary housing, for medical checkups, for help navigating systems that often swallowed the most vulnerable. He insisted on driving them himself once it was safe, refusing any thought of letting them walk another step in the cold. When they finally left the cabin, Ranger trotting alongside, Evelyn turned back once, taking in the simple log structure that had become a turning point in her life. She did not know how to express what this man had given her. It was more than shelter. It was dignity. It was the reminder that kindness could still appear, unannounced, at the worst possible moment. The weeks that followed were not magically easy. Healing never is. But there was food now, and warmth, and people who checked in. The children began to smile again, hesitant at first, then freely. Evelyn found work at a small community center, her hands busy, her mind slowly clearing. She learned how to ask for help without shame, how to accept support without feeling weak. Daniel stayed in touch, not as a savior, but as a steady presence, someone who understood that rescue was not a single act, but a series of choices made over time. Years later, the memory of the blizzard still lived in Evelyn's bones, a reminder of how close she had come to losing everything. But it was no longer a source of fear. It was a testament. Proof that even in the coldest storms, someone might open a door. Someone might see you. If this story has touched your heart in any way, take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who may need hope more than you realize. And before this video ends, please leave a comment sharing what kindness means to you, or a moment when someone stepped in and changed your life. Because somewhere, right now, someone is standing in their own storm, praying for a door to open.